Can't we just talk him?
Because we are uncool.
I don't believe in guilty pleasure.
A choice right now between fear and love.
Welcome to Empower the Audience. We are back. We are planning to do this once a week now, so we are regular. We're on iTunes. We're currently on Pocket Cast, which is a Android app that you can get. We're also going to be on Stitcher soon, so check us out there. We are here. This is the biggest cast we've ever had. This is the supersized version of Empower the Audience. We have Chris, also known as Movie Guy 84. Hey. We have Marshall, also known as the One True Hazard.
What's up?
And we have Vince, also known as, well, he's got multiple names.
Lord Sniffington, Mulacor from Life in Hard Mode.
There you go.
There you go.
It depends on where you're talking to him from.
Or what time of night.
Exactly.
Whoa, now.
Take it easy, Marshall.
So, we're here to talk about the stuff we've been watching, and Chris is going to start us off with a couple movies he's has seen.
And stick around, because then we will get to our comments on Avengers.
Age of Ultron.
Take it away, Chris.
All right. Well, this last week I got to see two movies. The first one was Furious 7. And going into that movie, I haven't seen 5 or 6 yet, so I was a little behind. And I noticed that pretty much right away. There were a couple characters in there that I was like, okay, I thought they were dead, but they're not. So the first part was kind of trying to figure out what was up with them. But it ended up being really good. I liked it a lot. It was really exciting. The last movie I had seen was the fourth movie, which was good, I thought, but this stepped it up in every way. All the car chases were incredible. The effects were awesome. But of course there was the kind of white elephant in the room with the movie was Paul Walker and his character being there. You could just tell, the audience, everyone in there was kind of like, okay, this guy's here. What's going to happen with this character? Is he going to die? And there was kind of this overall theme going on with this character. It was like, okay, this is his last big hurrah. Then he's going to kind of retire from it and stay with his family because he's now got a wife and kids. And so all these little things keep happening in the movie, and you're like, okay, he's going to die now. Oh, okay, he's going to die now. He's going to die now. Oh, he's going to die here. And it's not spoiling it or anything, honestly, but these things keep happening, and you're just oh, it's gonna happen, and you're just kind of on the edge of your seat, oh, it's gonna.
So unintentional tension.
Yeah. So you're kind of just when's it gonna happen?
So it turned Furious 7 into Final Destination.
Well, a little bit, at least for his character. At least for his character, but it was actually interesting, though. I thought, in a way, with this. Action movie is that it had a lot of emotion in it. It was very character driven too, okay. Which you don't see a lot in action movies. It's just we're gonna go and do these 1, 2, 3 things, and then that's it. It's as many explosions as possible, and that's all it's about. And it actually was, it was emotional. It had a lot of really good character stuff in it going on, and yeah, it was actually really exciting. I enjoyed it a lot. I highly recommend it, even if you haven't watched
seen
the others.
Good.
That's what I've actually heard from people. I have not seen one of those, and much to the dismay of people I work with, they're they can't believe I haven't seen it. But yeah, I've never seen any of them. But some people said you could actually start with this one and watch it. So yeah, I can see the emotion. Well, I actually see seen the poster a lot lately, and it's got that emotional look to it. They captured a really good thing, really good emotional aspect of the movie in that poster, I thought.
Yeah, and the outcome of the film was really good, considering all the things they went through with making it. They started it a couple of years ago. It was actually supposed to come out last year, but then because of Paul Walker's passing, they put it on hold. And then James Wan, who's totally new to the franchise, this guy that's directed horror movies like Saw and Insidious, and he's come to this as an action movie. It's his first big thing, and he had to hold this all together. He had to get everyone back together after that happened and keep moving it forward. They had to rewrite it, and he did an excellent job with that. Very surprised. But yeah.
It's interesting what can happen when stuff like that, puts a puts a challenge on the situation.
And the
they
director
can
and
rise
cast.
to it. Yeah, so good deal.
Yeah, that was that movie. The other movie I ended up seeing this week was, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Ex Machina.
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina.
It's
Okay.
Latin.
All right, that's what I kind of figured. Because I know there's Deus.
Deus Ex
Ex
Machina.
Machina, yeah.
Okay,
It's a
see, I
literary
can't say it
term.
right at all. But so
That's
I
what we're here
originally
for.
had seen like a poster for it a while back, and I knew a little bit of like who was in it and things like that. But I wasn't too interested in it because I was like, it's a little too sci-fi for me, and I thought it'd be about robots, and I'm like, no. But then I ended up seeing a trailer for it in front of another movie, and it looked really thrilling and exciting and interesting. So I was like, well, I'm gonna have to check it out, and not disappointed. It was really well done. It was a thriller, but like the ending for me was the only thing I was kind of like, because it built up a lot, and you're just like, okay, something's gonna happen. When is it gonna happen? And it kind of had you guessing. It was very original. I had no idea what was going to happen, and I usually love movies like that keep you kind of trying to figure it out. The effects were mind-blowing. Like, the effects were so good. This woman that was this robot, you could like see through parts of her, and then like it was just it was so good with that stuff.
So basically, it's like, is it a Steve Jobs type character that kind of does he go off the grid for a while and nobody knows where he is? Is that what it is? Or?
Kinda. Okay, so yeah, the plot of it is this guy works for this big tech company that's kind of like Google, and he wins a contest to spend a week with this guy who's kind of a recluse. He's the guy that started this whole company up. He's a computer genius, basically. And in that retreat, he ends up turning out it's not just a retreat to hang out with this kind of his hero in a way, but to take place in this Turing test with an AI. And a Turing test is basically where you are testing someone to figure out, are they a robot or an actual human being? So
If you saw
doing all these
Imitation
things.
Game, they talked about it in there because that was Alan Turing was the lead character in that.
So yeah, they're trying to. He's like, okay, but then when he sees the robot, it's just mind blowing in how excellent it is and very human like it is, and everything it does, from manipulating him to using feelings and critical thinking. And like, it's just better than anything before. But at the same time, there's these things happening along the way. There's like these power outages that keep happening. And during that time, the guy that's the creator of these robots, or well, this robot, he can't watch or see what's happening. So then the robot, though, knows that, and she's like, hey, you can't trust this guy. And the power comes back on. He's like, okay, what happened? And then she's just like back to normal, like, yeah, so we were having that conversation about art. And it's like, okay, what's up? What's happening
What can
here?
you trust?
And so, yeah, it kind of becomes this cat and mouse game of like, okay, what's real, what isn't? Is she a robot? Am I a robot? What is going on?
So,
Yeah.
So for those of you that follow actors a lot, the young guy that wins the contest, his name is Domhnall Gleeson. He is also known as Bill Weasley.
Yes, he
correct?
is.
He's
Yeah,
Bill
and I love
Weasley.
that.
Fun.
I had to look it up after because I'm like, it's so familiar. Who is this guy?
Yeah, he's also the son of Mad Eye Moody, Brendan Gleeson, and so that's kind of cool that there's a father-son thing going on in the Potteryverse. But and then Oscar Isaac plays the CEO, the guy that developed the AI, and he is on fire right now. He's done a lot of indies, and he's happens to do this little movie coming out in December called Star Wars. I mean, he's blowing up like crazy. He's a really good actor too. I respect him a lot.
Yeah, they were excellent in it, and it's that's the thing with the movie is there's like 3 people in the whole movie, and so you got to carry it, you got to take it serious and do well, and they all were very good. So, yeah, highly recommend it if you like it. Yeah.
Cool.
Very into that.
So let's stay in the sci-fi realm, and Marshall's going to talk about a movie he, Lainey, and I watched this
The
week
Giver.
called The Giver. Yeah, which is
The
definitely
Giver was
sci-fi.
really interesting. When I first started getting into it, I figured it was going to be along the same lines as Hunger Games and Divergent, in that it seemed like a post-apocalyptic society. Oh, well, one is different than the others. Oh, let's watch what happens. But this movie is all about what makes humanity human, really. What gives us our depth? Because this is a society that is all functionality. The people are almost robots, even to the point that they don't really have emotions as much as they have feelings. And there's actually a time each night where they're sitting around the table and they'll go, okay, now it's your turn for feelings. Please tell me your feelings. So it's almost like you're living in a computer.
Yeah, the way they have to talk very specific language.
Yes. If you're not being precise, they'll get down on you about which words you chose to use.
It's not connotative; it's denotative. Those are big words, but that's basically
there you go.
you say what you mean, not in a metaphorical way. You have to be specific.
Which also means that you can't speak artfully to be more expressive. You have to be
Articulate.
and analytical.
And the interesting thing about the beginning of the movie is to kind of illustrate that it's in what color, Marshall?
Most of the movie begins in black and white, and the very little bits of color that they used was very well placed and desaturated. But then, since you have a movie that's about a culture where there's no emotions, obviously things are going to be altering bit by bit for the main character, and as we see that, more and more color comes in, and it's a beautiful movie for that. I mean, the plot was not anything that would shock you, really.
It's not a suspense movie. It's more philosophical on
Yes.
the sci-fi spectrum, which was kind of interesting. So, like, if you go from where Star Wars is more action-oriented and kind of epic story-oriented, and Star Trek is more science on the science fiction, it's kind of more in the Star Trek realm where it's more philosophical, and so which is kind of an interesting thing because so much of the, like he says, the Hunger Games and all that, it's so really dark and depressing. It was nice to see a different kind of shade in that palette.
Really, if you want to have a better comparison, rather than having the Hunger Games and all that, this is a lot closer to Aldous Huxley's A Brave New World, only done in a way that a teenager could read it and not have to go, Mommy, Daddy, what is this?
Yeah, this is actually a thing that's used in schools. This book, it's actually, I checked it out. Came out in '93, so it's modern, but it's not. It's older than Hunger Games.
Yeah.
And all
I
this.
remember having to read that in 6th grade. And, I don't remember too much of it because I wasn't too into it.
Yeah,
at the time.
I remember.
But I
it
do
quite
remember
vividly.
it was basically like, things were in black and white. And I remember when they came out with the trailer for the movie, I was like, why is everything color? Are they not sticking to that? So I was kind of like...
They just showed you select pieces because they figured that would be less shocking.
It was, and a lot of times people get turned off by a black and white movie. They just won't go see it if it's black and white. So I had to probably be careful with it. But yeah, I thought the way they introduced the color was interesting. And
It's subtle.
The main character is not a famous actor. He's probably a brand new actor. But Jeff Bridges is the giver character. Meryl Streep plays, I can't remember her title, but she's pretty much
basically the president.
she's basically the president of the society, and so it's definitely got really good performances in it. But again, if you're not into philosophical type stuff, you need a little bit more going on. It might not be your thing, but if you're into that kind of stuff, nowadays, since there's not a whole lot of this kind of movie story being told, I'm sure there's a big audience for this kind of movie because I think they did honor, as far as I could tell, to the book because they didn't dumb down anything that I could tell. It was really done from a very intellectual point
So
of view.
it's a nice, subtle movie, and if you really want to have a discussion about feelings with your kids and the importance of feelings and how to handle your feelings, you might sit down with your kid and watch this when they're old enough.
Yeah, it's nice that they're bringing back older sci-fi stuff, like Ender's Game, which we'll talk about eventually here too. Is that they're? It's nice that now that they have an audience for that kind of stuff, that they're not just either taking new stuff or like just comic book stuff or whatever. They're actually going back and getting the original sci-fi stuff and bringing it back, which is cool because that way it gives it more authenticity, I think.
So what's our next subject?
Next up, since we're still on the sci-fi thing, since I mentioned Star Wars earlier, I'm just letting you guys know that I am making my personal mission I actually started this mission last year, then found out that Star Wars isn't coming out till December instead of May, which I know it raises the ire of a lot of diehard Star Wars fans. I personally like the movies to come out my birth month, but it's okay. It gives me more time to actually go through all the Star Wars. Now, when I say go through Star Wars, you think, okay, there's 6 movies, so that's what he's going to do. No, I'm actually in Clone Wars Season 2 right now. I'm going through everything they actually came out. I'm not going to read all the books because that's too much. But I'm watching all the movies, and I'm actually going to experiment. Marshall found out a cool watching order to watch the movies in. And what is that order again?
It's called the Machete Order, and you would watch... you're watching number 4, number 5, number 2, 3, 6, and then you could insert the Clone Wars and Rebels cartoons as you want, or watch that later. But basically, what it does is it changes how you're perceiving it from being a linear chronological order to being, we're going to follow Luke up until the point that we realize, oh hey, Vader's his father,
and then you go to the origin
and
flashback.
then you actually get to see new things that you didn't see before. How now, when you're looking at Anakin as he's becoming Vader, you go right into Return of the Jedi, and you see that Luke is there. Luke was actually starting down the path towards the dark side, and everything that was happening to Anakin was kind of happening to Luke too. So then the ending becomes even more impactful. And on the plus side, we don't have that much time with Jar Jar Binks.
I think did you mention the first movie?
The first movie you skip.
I was about to say, is
You
it reason?
skip
Wow.
the first
Misa
movie.
not sure about that.
Yeah, now you could plug the first movie in there right after movie 5, but
Well, that would be such a stark. That'd be like a whiplash.
It would be a
Going
whiplash.
from Empire to Episode 1. Oh my goodness. But anyway, so that's an interesting concept. Feel free to try this order while you're waiting for December to come along.
Yeah, comment how you feel about it.
Yeah, let us know on the.
and if you
our
manage to
pages.
find it, some people actually have been doing cuts of the prequel trilogy that kind of speed it up. That you could.
There's an actor
none
named
of them are
Topher
legal,
Grace.
so
Yeah, well, there's an actor named Topher Grace that did it. You guys might know him from the 70s show. That's what it is. He did it, and I think he has the rights to show it publicly, but it's not available anywhere online or anything like that. But I actually, now that you brought it up, I've actually given my crack at it. I'm using the lowest of the quality of film editor. I'm using Windows Movie Maker, believe it or not, to edit the episode 1 down. And I found that there's not obvious things like everybody wants to say cut out Jar Jar, whatever. I don't think I do that. He's actually there, and I understand why he's there. And I'm not gonna. This is not about
you
a flame
do
war.
need Jar Jar Binks for the story.
This is not a flame war. And if you think about it, everything you complained about Jar Jar in the first movie, the second movie, he screwed up so royally and basically caused the war.
Yes.
So I think, just let him have that. But no, but there's a lot I've found. I'm only like 18 minutes into the movie, but there's a lot I could trim out of just even
Jar Jar caused the war.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
he was the
actually
final
in
vote.
charge. He was the final vote in the Senate to actually
How did I miss this?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
You're gonna have to go back and watch it.
If you were to do a cut down of the first movie, I could definitely see it being inserted in there, because there's a lot of dead space and a lot of things that are just there for comedic relief that isn't necessary, but being introduced to Jar Jar at that point would still be necessary to know just how much of a bungling idiot he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's that character, and granted, people say that, they didn't really have those characters in 4, 5, and 6, but R2 and 3PO weren't in the beginning of that movie, so they kind of wanted to have a little bit of comedic stuff, which, that's a generational thing, divide. If you're going to find some people that, you don't mess with my Jar Jar, and then find the people that think that he's the most terrible thing in the world. I don't tend to go that way, So anyways, I'm having fun experimenting with that. I will maybe bring more updates about me watching through. I can tell you right now, Clone Wars is amazing. If you ever have just said, I'm not going to watch something because it's animated, I'm over animated stuff, I'm a grown-up, forget that stuff, if you like Star Wars, some of the best stories from Star Wars are actually in this series.
Yeah.
They are so good. They go so deep. I've actually watched Rebels, which is the latest one. That's
really
the
like
Disney.
Rebels.
That's the Disney. Since Disney took over, it's now on XD. Disney XD, but definitely go back. Right now, you could watch the entire run of Clone Wars on Netflix, and they even added. Netflix had their direct to Netflix 6th season, which were called The Lost Missions. It is. I mean, trust me. If you think it's going to be some kid stuff, it's not.
No, it's not.
First episode, people are dying left, right, and center. It's a war. It is not. There's not sugarcoated. There's some crazy stuff that happens on these shows. They're more teen than for kids, for sure. So definitely check those out because, I mean, you really only have 6 movies right now waiting for the 7th. And you know, if you want to go deeper, they take place between episode 2 and episode 3. When you watch the Clone Wars, you realize there is so much more to the universe than you've seen. You've seen a sliver of the universe in the George Lucas movies, in the 6 movies. It's even that huge. So if you pick a character in the Cantina in episode 4, you're gonna get to see their planet and what their culture's like.
Yeah,
that's how cool this is. So it's really worth watching. I highly recommend it. It's more grown up than you expect. It's like CGI, so it's really sophisticated. When you see the battle scenes, the vehicles, all that stuff is as sophisticated as you see it in the movies. There's nothing that's chintzy about it at all. It's really good stuff.
And so, from things that a lot of people would think are for kids, we're now moving on to Marvel Comics.
Yeah, this is one we've been waiting for quite a while. We were talking to our doctor today, and we were counting out how many movies there were. This is the 10th installment in the Iron Man Marvel universe. In the we'll say Marvel Studios films, because we all know there's 2 other studios making films that are based on Marvel
Comics. Cinematic Universe is what its official name.
And so, so this is the 10th movie.
Can I add a comment before we actually talk about the contents of the movie?
Yeah, sure.
All right, I have been hearing a day or 2 before I actually saw it, and I hear people talking about this is not as good as the previous one.
Yeah.
Now, Corey and I were talking on the way out of the movie about sequelitis, or sequels in general. To me, this is not a sequel. This is a continuation of the story. Yes, the next chapter. So if you're going to say, well, this isn't as good as the previous one, well, then that's your opinion, but it doesn't make it a lesser movie from a sequel perspective, because it's not a sequel. It's not Jurassic Park 2.
Yeah.
All right? Even though, technically, Jurassic Park 2 is a continuation of the story, they didn't call it that. So, to me, a sequel is just some random story flipped in.
Basically, like one storyline just continued.
Yeah.
But this is like so many storylines coming together.
So
all connected.
It's a multiverse.
You actually, you make a really great point. I'm actually thinking about it now. If you were to take original Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron and play them back to back, you would still, because of how Age of Ultron opens, your heart would still be pounding off of the last one when this one starts off, and then it doesn't let up.
It doesn't let up.
Yeah.
Also, what's phenomenal is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and how they've led that series into the movies, like Captain America 2, and then they did a little snippet to get you into this movie. So, no, I can't give the spoilers as to why it's important, but there's at least 2 things I noticed at the end of the last season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Or was that the end? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So we're talking about this, and Chris has not yet to see it, so we're actually not going to spoil it for anybody. We'll talk a little bit about it, but we won't spoil it. Part of why I started Empower, and part of definitely my new kind of mission statement for it, is it's a discussion. It's a discussion show. It's not let's tear stuff to shreds, because anybody can do that.
That's every show.
10-year-old on YouTube could do that. That's not what we want to do. We actually want to talk about stuff that we were really passionate about. And
philosophical.
So what he was talking about with the people critiquing, it's like they're in a duck blind, ready to take pot shots at every new movie that comes out. That's about being negative. That's not what we're about. That's not what we're trying to do. It's taking a more, I think, educated, a little bit more well-rounded view of the things we're looking at, and not just saying, "Oh, it either was good or it sucked." I mean, that's just lame. If that's the game I
And
need.
to clarify, we're not taking pot shots at those people either. They often have good points, but the point is, it's not a sequel.
It's the universe has not stopped since Iron Man.
Yeah.
It really hasn't. It's very easy to think of them all as separate movies, but they're not. Like, really, when we get done with this entire thing, spend a week, do a marathon of everything, and yeah.
It's
it'll be
crazy,
one
too,
big thing.
because a lot of people just assume that this was the plan from the beginning. And I heard an interview with Jon Favreau, that when they did Iron Man, they just thought it would be fun if they had a Nick Fury cameo at the end. That wasn't the beginning of the Avengers. It was obviously when the box office for that and the Incredible Hulk hit that they thought, okay, now we can do more movies and let's maybe try to do a through line through them. But that's the most amazing thing about this is you guys go, and it also amazes me that people do critique a lot of these movies as hard as they do, because I'm old enough to remember when I had the Richard Donner, Christopher Reeve Superman movie. The first two were good. I can't speak to the other two. And that was it from like 78, I believe, is when the first Richard Donner movie came out, to 1990 when the Batman movie came out. And I'll do a rant about Batman later, but honestly, most of my life I haven't had this. Now we have this wealth of riches known as superhero movies, and people are still taking pot shots. To me, that at some point, I don't want to like badmouth people, but at some point, how spoiled can you be where you gotta say that movie was terrible when you have 10 Marvel movies plus all the plus the other ones coming out? It's insane.
First world problems.
It constantly blows my mind that this. I mean, I told my son, I said, "There's no way I would take a comic book to high school when I was in high school because I get beaten up for it." Nowadays, it's like you see football players with Superman shirts. It's a different time. So, anyways,
So about the actual movie.
Yeah.
let's talk about the movie.
What I really liked about this is they kept the level of dialogue from the first movie, and they just they even took it to the next level. So much so that you can't stop watching, but you can't stop listening either. Even when it seems like there's blank space, there's not. Somebody is saying something, and it's hilarious.
So- Sometimes
the
it's
banter
body
is
language.
Great. For those of you that don't know anything about the name Joss Whedon, he's the guy that directed and wrote both of the two Avenger movies. This is also the guy that created Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yes, the movie before the series.
Firefly.
Angel, Firefly, Dollhouse, Dr. Horrible, all this stuff. And if you go and look at those movies on IMDb, they are ensemble movies.
A lot are on
That's why
Netflix, by the way.
There's not one. He doesn't do single character stuff. So that's why he was perfect for the Avengers. When I heard he was doing it, I was like, okay, number one, I'm just a Whedonite, so I'm happy. But number two, that makes the most sense because he can handle that many characters. Now, he handled as many characters as he did in the first one. They added more in this one. And the thing about it is, it didn't buckle under the weight.
Yeah.
It kept going. And what Marshall was talking about is this great banter that what a tricky thing to do is in the dialogue is actually make it seem like time has passed and they've actually gotten closer. Mm-hmm. Which they did really well in this one. You felt like, okay, these guys have actually been knowing each other because the whole setup of the first movie is that they want to tear each other apart. They hate each other. The line was, what, this is not a team, this is a time bomb? Yeah, that was the line. Well, in this, obviously, you can tell there's a little bit more of an intimacy, definitely a lot more smack talking going on.
So basically, this movie, in a nutshell, without giving any spoilers, is character development. How do they form a team? Or don't?
Yeah. And the thing about it is character development. This is such a ridiculously huge action movie. And you say character development in an action movie, you basically equals Joss
And I
Whedon.
mean
He's
literal
the only
character
one that can pull that
development.
off.
This isn't like imitation crap. This isn't like, oh, let's see if the Hulk can do this, or whoever, Captain, if he has feelings. No. It's actual character development where it feels like they're growing as individuals.
One thing, and it doesn't really blow the story at all. If you remember in the first movie, there was that one incident where Thor's hammer smacks Cap's shield, and it levels the area. We all kind of remember that. That was like a really funny, kind of awesome episode element. They do that again, but not as a joke and not as an accident. They have learned to work together, to combine their powers in random ways, and so that they were
Very
one
creative.
cohesive unit.
So you get to see how tactically they're a team,
Oh, yeah.
but
Way more.
emotionally are they
Yes.
a team, and that's what this is about. So I think, unless you have something small to add, that's about as safe as we can go.
The one thing I would just say to talk about Joss Whedon real quick is what he's good at doing is he's good at the ensemble, he's good at the comedy, which actually
phenomenal.
self-directed comedy. One of the reasons, if you go back and watch Buffy, is that you'd have this weird-looking monster that this teenage girl was confronting, and she would make fun of how it would look, therefore taking the joke away from anybody that wanted to make that joke. And then serious drama. He will make you cry like nobody's business. So those elements are just so atypical for a genre piece like this that I mean it just raises the game all around.
You're going to have some feels.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So like I said, there's the new characters. I'll just say the new characters real quick. There's Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and the Vision, which the actor Paul Bettany finally gets FaceTime. He's been Jarvis all this time. If you guys remember the disembodied voice for Tony Stark, and he was glad to finally actually get a chance to act, and his role was great.
He did phenomenal.
A great job all around. And big shout out to James Spader as the voice of Ultron. We were big fans of him in the Blacklist, and
that's where that was. I don't remember actor names, and I'm like that voice.
Yeah.
It was haunting
What
me
is
the
it?
entire
It
time.
was the whole movie, and I'm not one of these people that like to interrupt a movie, so I'm just trying to figure it out, and I gave up.
So this was a really good actor movie. Pretty much every actor played their heart out for this one. You could
Yes.
Yeah, when Marvel's got it's amazing. Marvel got their own rights to their stuff, and from the gate they got Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow, an Oscar award-winning actress in a comic book movie. I mean, they are taking it as seriously as you can. So there's much more to look forward into. We already talked about Daredevil. There's going to be more Netflix shows coming on. Ant-Man later, which we'll talk about when it comes out. Just a lot of fun stuff. So definitely
And you
check it
might
out.
see me with Corey talking about plot development versus action.
Yep.
Yeah. There you go.
That's a big one that
Yeah.
we're tackling right now.
For sure.
Yes. I want
That's
to hear
another
you guys' take
episode.
on that one. Yeah.
Alrighty, so we've been.
Anything else we've seen that we forgot about?
I can't think of anything.
That's pretty much all.
All right, well, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap on ETA. Thanks for
Clack.
checking us out, guys. Check us out. We're all over the webs. Look us up on Facebook.
Again,
and
we
Twitter,
have Chris,
Tumblr.
Movie Guy 84, Marshall, Hazard, The One True Hazard, Vince, Mulacor, Life in Hard Mode, and
At Corey Estel.
yes,
I'm just me.
he's just me.
That's how I roll.
He's that cool.
All right. Bye.
See you later, everybody.
All right.